Our first speaker comes from the U.S. Pacific Basin Agriculture Research Center, USDA ARS, Dr. Dong Cha. He is a research biologist there. He is responsible for coordinating research efforts to develop new and improved pre- and post-harvest treatments to control quarantine pests that restrict the export of tropical ornamental and horticultural crops. He has been working on various national and international research projects in the area of systems approach and post-harvest fumigation research. He is currently a subject editor for the Journal of Economic Entomology in the Commodity Treatment and Quarantine subject area. He received his BA and MS in Forest Resources from Seoul National University in South Korea, his PhD in Forest Resources from Pennsylvania State University, and led his postdoctoral research programs at Cornell University and the USDA ARS in Wapato, Washington. At this time, I'd like to call up Dr. Cha for his updates on the development of systems approach for Hawaiian ornamental crop exports. Dr. Cha.
Thank you, Glenn, for introducing me, and good morning, everyone. So my name is Dong Cha. I work at the USDA lab across the street. And before we get started, I'd like to thank HFNA and Eric Tanoi and Judy again for organizing this seminar and inviting me as a speaker. So personally, this is my first in-person presentation over the last 2.5 years, and I was really getting tired of the online presentations. So I'm really happy today, and hopefully we can go back to normal and keep it like this way for a long time. So today I'm going to talk briefly about my research over the last 5 years to develop a systems approach for Hawaii ornamental crop export. Okay. So this all began about 5 years ago when we got the first grant in aid from HFNA and HDOA to develop systems approach for reduced rejection of the ornamental crop exports. So basically, we work with several growers to develop a systems approach to reduce the level of the rejection. So what I meant by systems approach is basically it's a combination of different treatments that throughout the pre-harvest and post-harvest, post-harvest. So we want to reduce the level of the infestation of the flower by gradually using each treatment to reach the target level, which is basically zero pest on the flower. And this is a little different concept than the traditional standalone treatment as a pre-harvest and post-harvest. So for that, the single treatment is being used to reach the COVID-9 level kind of control, which is pretty high, like 99%, 99.68% control. So to achieve that, most times we need to use the very strong treatment that can be also detrimental for the quality of the flowers. So the field has been moved from the standalone treatment to the kind of systems approach, and we are kind of trying to develop that. And luckily for us, Dr. Arnold Hara already developed many different components that can be used as a systems approach. And actually, some of the growers are already adopting systems approach in their production. So our goal was to develop and also evaluate what's being already used in Hawaii. So evaluate it if that is enough for the reduced rejection, or if we need something new to reach the better improvement in the cleaning programs. So for that, we started from like evaluating the rejection data over 5 years from 2012 to 2016, and you can see there's a like 500 rejections and 800 rejections and 100 rejections on the cut flower and foliage and orchid over the 5 years. And if you see this table shows that the frequency of the rejections that caused by the different groups of the pest. So the top 6 groups of the pest, that scale insects and mealybugs and ants and aphid and snails and slugs and thrips accounts for about 80% of all the rejections. So in theory, if you control these 6 groups of the pests very well, then you can reduce the rejection pretty significantly. And if you calculate that numbers by the number of the growers and by per year, that's about less than 1 rejection per grower per year, which is fine for the grower to maintain their shipping privilege to the like California. So our goal is that this calculation is a little misleading, so I will revisit this at my last slide of the talk. So the next step, we want to identify the most problem plant species and most problem pest species for the rejections. So for cut flowers, it was ginger and heliconia that mostly rejected by mealybugs and scale insects and aphids and ants. For cut foliage, it was leaves from the tea leaves and dracaena and palm, and by the scale insects and mealybugs. And for orchid, it was mostly white cut dendrobium flowers that rejected by the thrips. So we wanted to control these pests very well and recommend these different pre-harvest and post-harvest treatment to growers. And for pre-harvest treatment, we use the chemicals, the poison. So to control the mealybugs and scale insects and aphid, we use the marathons, safari, and contos. And we also want to control the ants, which kind of tend the mealybugs and scale and aphid so they can grow better. So if you control the ants, you also control other insects. So for ants, we control the fire ants and other ant species too. And we control the slugs and thrips too. For thrips, the most of the growers orchid growers already using pesticide kind of in weekly or bi-weekly rotation. And we will just follow whatever pesticide they were using, and we do the surveys in between those sprays to see if the insecticide is helping to control the thrips. For the post-harvest treatment, for cut flower and foliage, the flowers were first washed by the growers, and then it moved to and shipped to the shipper, and then at that place it was treated with hot water, and then after that washed with a strong spray. And for the orchid, there's no good post-harvest option yet, so I think we want to develop that. So this is a ginger and heliconia in the field, and it looks pretty clean, but if you look at very closely, it has a lot of insect infestation. And this particular grower hasn't treated her field about 10 years. So she was just rely on the post-harvest treatment to clean her flowers. So after harvested, the flower was washed, and then it's sent to the shipper and treated with the hot water treatment and the second wash. So we did the survey in every step. So after harvest, after first wash, and after hot water treatment and second wash to see if these treatments are enough to get the zero infestation on the flowers. Okay. So this was our first series of surveys. So in 2017, when the grower was not using pesticide, and you can see both ginger and heliconia has pretty high level of infestation. About 99% of ginger and 80% of the heliconia flowers had some kind of insect. And this shows the different insect species. So there were mealybugs and scales and aphids, a lot of aphids on ginger and ants. And after first wash, these insects can be reduced significantly, right? But it's not complete. And then you can, and if you see by the flower, still more than half of the flowers has one of these insects on it. And then after the hot water treatment and second wash, it's pretty close to zero. It's not, but it's still not all zero. And if you look at by the flowers, about still 25% of ginger and 8% of the heliconia had one of these insects. Although those are all dead, I think California still rejects the dead insects. So if these flowers were shipped to California, it will get rejected. So in 2018 and 19, we kind of provide the grower with the pesticide. And the grower agreed to spray that. So this 2018 first survey was done before the treatment, the pesticide treatment. So you can see the aphid and mealybug and scale and ants. And these are the number of these insects on each flower. And 3 different bars shows that number of the insects that we surveyed after harvested, after first wash, and after hot water treatment and the second wash. And you can see that after second wash, there was still some insect left on the flowers. So the field was then treated with the marathon, safari, and ant control. And you can see that mealybug infestation significantly reduced, and scale also a little bit, and ant also a little bit reduced, but not the aphid. And probably because of that, the post-harvest treatment was not effective to completely clean those insects on the flowers. So in 2019, we repeated this same study. And so after 2018 insecticide spraying, the field was not sprayed again. So in the first part of the 2019, the field was also not treated. So this graph shows the survey before treatment, and you can see there's a still level of infestation. And then we treated field with the contos and safari and ant for ants. And we replaced the marathon with contos because contos is better for aphid control. And you can see now the aphid infestation is reduced, and also mealybugs and scale and ants. So at this time, we could get after post-harvest treatment, we could get the zero infestation, which was pretty good. And the idea is here, like if your series of the post-harvest treatment has like 99% efficacy to kill all these insects, right? Then if you have 1,000 insects on a flower, 99% efficacy will have about 10 insects left on the flowers. If you have 100 insects on the flower, 99% efficacy control still have 1 insect left on the flower. So, but if you have 10 insects on the flower, with the 99% efficacy, you get 0.1 insect on the flower, which is close to zero. So this is, I think, what's happening here. So as we spray the insecticide, the insect population kind of gradually kind of decreasing. And because in here, there's the initial level of infestation low enough, so the post-harvest treatment was effective enough to control all those plants, all those insects. So I think this is pretty promising. But the insecticides has some additional cost to the growers. And we want to kind of account for that because it's an additional cost. So in 2018, the treatment costed about more than $2,000, and that's mainly because we use the marathon, which is expensive. But the grower kind of never sprayed before, so she preferred to use the granular stuff. So that's why we provide the marathon. And in 2018, we could replace the marathon with contos, and that kind of reduced the cost significantly down. And still, it's about like $600, and we still want to compensate that for the growers. So we looked at the kind of productivity of the flowers by the growers over time. We couldn't, because of the field condition, we couldn't do the controlled comparison of controlled site and the insecticide treated site. So, but this is just basically all the flowers that the grower produced over different years. And you can see that over the time, the flower production increased significantly. And it could be just because of the temperature or climate kind of changes. But it could be also because we control the insects better with the pesticide. Because insects also use still a lot of energy from plants, and those energy could go to the growth, not if you control the insect, right? So I think that may be also happening here. And one other thing the grower was really happy was she used to spend like all day washing her flowers before she sent to the shipper. But after insect spraying, like she will be done before like noon. So she was really happy about that. So I think it's a kind of good approach. And we could like squeeze in 9 more surveys after that, and we got all 0. So we could get the complete control from the cut ginger and heliconia flowers. And then after that we go into the COVID and we couldn't do anymore. So, but we are kind of resuming this effort with the larger number of the growers now. For thrips, it's a little different story for orchids. So as I mentioned, the orchid growers use like spray their orchid every week or every 2 weeks using many different kinds of the insecticide, but it doesn't seem like very effective. So pylon is considered best, I think. And it is expensive, but you can see after 1 week, there's still a lot of infestation on the flowers. And this was like basically similar to all other insecticides being used. What's interesting and effective was the truck ride. So after the flowers are harvested and surveyed, it went to the shipper. And during that period of time, somehow during the truck ride, we usually get significant reduction in the infestation from the thrips on the flowers. So maybe that could be used as one of the treatment. So this shows the summary of the thrip survey during the 2019. And you can basically see pre-harvest and after harvest, you have the thrips infestation on the flowers. And this is why the growers are spraying their thrips. Their orchids. And you can see after truck ride, we get the significant reduction. So we are probably we need to look at this more carefully, so what's going on there. But we also probably need some other post-harvest treatment because there's none available currently for orchids. So we are looking at the fumigation options. So some of the fumigants are very known for very effective for thrips, and we are working on that. But thrips are also kind of pre-harvest problem because it induces the abortion of the flower bud. And then there's no flowers, right? So we still need to something better pre-harvest control method for the thrips. And I'm working with Dr. Joanna Blosse for that. So we are trying to do some chemical trials, and she may have some update on that for later at her talk today. And we could also do some cut foliage surveys in 2019. And this is basically the spray program that the growers was using. And we did the surveys, and throughout different foliage, we could see that the infestation was pretty low. And after hot water treatment and washing, we could get all the zero infestation from this set of the cut foliage. So it was. So I think it's been going well. We couldn't do more because of COVID, but we are resuming this now too. So summary so far from the first year granting aid project, cut flower and cut foliage, including pre-harvest treatment with the insecticide, seems like working very well in combination with the already the post-harvest treatment that's being already used by the growers. And for orchid, it's challenging to control thrips, and we will be needing some new control method for the better control method for the thrips. So basically, systems approach appears very promising for cut flowers and foliage. And next step is we need to do something more for the thrips. So in 2020, we could get a second round of funding, granting aid funding to continue this effort. So there was 4 objectives. Basically continue what we were doing at the first granting aid project. And second, to add some field efficacy trial to better control thrips. And that's what I'm working with Dr. Joanna Blesse. And also we will develop some fumigation to better control thrips as a post-harvest treatment. And then we will share that information with the member of the HFNA. And this project was initially from 2020 to 2022, but because we couldn't do anything, we could extend, make the no-cost extension to 2024. So, and we are just now resuming this project, so I think it's a perfect timing. So for fumigation, we are using ethyl formate. This is a methyl bromide alternative that is known much safer than the methyl bromide. It is kind of flavor compounds. You found these compounds in fermentation products, like it's in the beer and some aged like cheese, and it's been used as also flavor, and it's readily break down to formic acid and ethanol. So there's no trace, and there's a threshold limit for this ethyl formate about 100 times higher than what's allows for the methyl bromide. And we actually already run the efficacy trials, and it is very effective for thrip. And we are planning to look at this for the mealybugs and scaly insects too. So the 99% efficacy to control thrips in the orchid in Hawaii is not very high. It's about 10 gram per cubic meter for 1 hour treatment. And we could do this in a larger scale fumigation trial with the orchid and the thrip. And one is control and one is with the ethyl formate treated. And I don't know if you can determine which one is treated or not, but the first one is the control and second one is the treated one. And we didn't see much difference in the vase life, no difference in the vase life of these flowers. And we also measured color change of these flowers, and there's no difference. Still, we treated these flowers with just the orchid and the thrips. And eventually we want to treat these flowers completely in the shipping box with the various kind of packing material the growers use. And those material can sometimes reduce the efficacy of the fumigant because it absorbs the fumigant also, and the plastic bag will kind of prevent the ethyl formate going into the plastic bag. So we need to test the kind of those logistical and operational part to make this more practical, and we are planning on that. And one other thing that during the COVID I was thinking is looking at the UVC options to control thrips. So UVC, so So sunlight has like this UV light, and there's a UVA, UVB, UVC, and UVC is the shortest wavelengths, kind of groups of the wavelengths like UV, which is most damaging. So, and it has been used for some other like nursery products in mainland, like it is very effective for like small flies or soft insects. And so I kind of bought the small setup that I can test that in my lab. And we will test that effect on the thrips and determine the effective dose. But we still need to also will be needed to monitor the effect on the quality, because UVC is basically sunlight, and I'm not sure, depending on the dose, if it can have some effect on the shade plant like orchid or anthurium. So we will probably need to test that. And another aspect is, so after those 6 top groups, there's a fungus also like causing a lot of infection, rejection, and we haven't addressed that. And we know that UVC will be effective on this fungus. I don't know, maybe Lisa knows better. So we want to kind of probably need to, so this, especially like anthurium has an anthracnose problem, and I'm not sure, but we may need to target sporulating stage of those to control the spread of the, yeah, I'm asking Lisa, but yeah. So we will do the UVC dose test on those anthracnose, and also at that level we will also look at the phytotoxicity on the plant. And if this could work well, like we could ultimately maybe irradiate this UVC during the night when there's nobody is around, and like certain period of time at certain period of time that is not damaging to the plant. So, and that will also probably potentially clean the fungus on the plant, but also like in the soil and also other areas within in the shade house. So I think I'm interested in working on that too. Okay, so this is what I was mentioning, that the graph was little misleading when I says that if we control the 80% of those target pests, we will get less than 1 rejection. So this shows the number of the interceptions from each grower and the number of the growers that has different levels of the rejections. So you can see that most of growers already doing pretty well. So like 80% growers has either less than 10%, no, 10 or 20 rejections over 5 years. So that's pretty doing well. So the problem is these growers having a lot of rejections. So there's one grower has like more than 200 rejections over 5 years. And hopefully we can work with these growers to make them like clean better their plants. Because I think, oh, it's asking something. Oh, I can just bypass, yeah. So I think it's just boils down to the conception of the inspectors, the Hawaii plant. If they have conception that the plant coming out from Hawaii is infested heavily, they will probably spend more time to look at more carefully the plants. And I think the only way is to every grower to participate in this program to make the infestation level low, so we can improve that the image of the Hawaii with the inspectors, so we can get the better rejection rate. So that's all I have for today, and thanks for listening. And I'd like to thank my funding agencies and also collaborators. And I don't know if I have time for questions. I'll be happy to answer any. Thank you.
The question that comes to mind is cost-benefit relationship.
Right.
between
Yeah.
no treatment and
Right.
just hot water treatment.
Yeah.
And the most surprising number I saw was the increase in yield in the field.
Right.
There's so many factors
Right.
that determine
Yeah.
yield,
Yeah.
weather and
Right.
everything
Right.
else too.
Right.
So trying to put that into a matrix in terms of cost-benefit relationship
Yeah. Yeah.
is very challenging.
Yeah.
For a grower, again, the very few growers get rich.
Right.
Making the decision to spend on chemicals, particularly in this day and age where the chemicals are
Very
so
expensive. Yeah. Yeah.
and they were getting more and more
Right.
expensive. And again, it's with all of the protection.
Yeah.
Workers really don't like to do chemical
Right. Right.
application.
Yeah. Yeah.
So again, it becomes a very challenging
Yeah.
question
Yeah.
from a grower standpoint as
Yeah.
to what the yield and
Right.
cost-benefit relationship is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And applying and, looking at the numbers,
Right.
of course, I would say, yeah, we should do this
Right.
for many reasons, not only
Right.
just benefit relation, but because of interception.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's the challenging thing that I wish we could quantify a little bit more.
Right. Yeah. So I 100% agree with you, and I don't want to burden growers things that doesn't make sense for them. So the first grower that we worked together couldn't do because of the field condition, but we have now 2 more growers. They agreed that I can subdivide their field, so we will treat one field and not in block design. So we will treat some, not treat some, and we will do the proper economic analysis, so if it makes sense for them or not. Yeah, so, yes?
For that presentation, I saw the slide with the resistance to thrips. Were you seeing that widespread, or did you just see certain populations of thrips that had resistance, or do you think that's a more widespread issue?
Yeah, so thrift problem is not, I think, Hawaii problem. It's all over the world. So thrifts develop resistance really fast.
Yeah. Have
So,
you seen resistance in Hawaii?
yeah.
Been more popular, or have you been?
I think, so we work with 2 growers, but from the 2 growers, it's basically very similar. Yeah. And sometimes the change of the thrift species also change. So thrift species also change over time, but it seems like all similar. Yeah. Yes.
Regarding Gordon's question, a couple of growers in the past have asked, the same question, yeah.
Yeah.
And I told them, I tell the papaya guys, how much crop are you losing? Like papayas, they know how many pounds. So, the flowers, you know how much you're throwing away, right? So you can kind of, based on that, figure out how many dollars worth you're throwing away. And I'm assuming that's marketable yield, right?
Yeah. Those are all marketable stuff. Yeah.
Depends on all that way, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so it's because of, so the increase could be just because of the flower quality is better for the market. Okay.
So that's like a bonus, right?
Yeah.
Because you're losing X amount of
Right,
product,
right.
and each flower is worth X amount of dollars. So you can extrapolate, and then you know how much you're losing.
Yeah.
And then compare.
Yep. Very good point. Thanks.
Dr. Charles, one last issue.
Yep.
On the issue of thrips, in the most recent past, we also worked with an importer who imports orchids from Thailand. And a number of their shipments were being intercepted because of thrips. And so he appealed to us to help support in an effort to ask the USDA to be more lenient. I
Yeah.
said, we can't do that because it's a major problem for
Yeah.
us to keep thrips out of our
Yeah.
environment.
Yeah.
And so the last thing in the world we can do right now is to encourage, the USDA to be less stringent on inspecting products coming into the state.
Yeah. So related to that, I work with the Korean APHIS counterpart, and they gave me some funding. So I didn't talk here, but we were looking at the fumigation effect on the bare root orchid seedlings. And what they do is sometimes if you control using the strong fumigation, the plant is a little bit damaged, but you can replant those, and after it grows and can go to the market. So that's, I think, another approach too. I think we don't do that in US. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.